Hello, I'm doing a book review, and the book I want to review is The Breathing Method by Stephen King. Now, The Breathing Method is a novella by Stephen King, which is from this book, Different Seasons. This, of course, is a collection of 4 novellas by Stephen King. Now, I haven't read Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption yet, and I haven't read Apt Pupil yet, but I have read The Body from this book, and The Body, next to the book It, is one of my favorite books by Stephen King, but the novella I'll be reviewing is The Breathing Method. Now, The Breathing Method, I think is probably the most underrated out of the 4 novellas in this, because a lot of people who have read this whole collection say that The Breathing Method is their least favorite in the collection, and I haven't read the other 2 novellas yet. I haven't read Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption yet, and I haven't read Apt Pupil yet, but I personally liked The Breathing Method. It's definitely not as good as The Body, which is one of my favorite books by Stephen King, but The Breathing Method I thought was a pretty decent novella. Basically, the book begins with this club. Basically, it's this group of old men who have this club where basically every so often they get together and tell stories, and basically most of the stories they tell are like horror stories and stuff, and what happens is one of the members of the club is a doctor, or used to be a doctor, and basically what he does is he tells the other men in the club this story of how back in the 1930s he was a doctor and he helped out this pregnant woman using something that he calls the breathing method. Now, and basically the whole book is like a story within the story, and basically this story within the story is the story that this doctor is telling the other men in this club. And basically what the story is basically it's about a woman who's pregnant, and she's pregnant out of wedlock because apparently she met some guy and he got her pregnant, but then he bailed out on her. And what happens is this doctor, basically the whole story focuses on how this doctor is teaching her something called the breathing method, which is kind of like a method that she can use to deal with her pain when she has to, of course, give birth to the baby. And but what happens is the whole story basically what I felt like the story was I felt like the story was kind of a commentary on the way things were back in the 30s, like, because it talked about how back in the 30s, people were so uptight that, if you were pregnant out of wedlock, you would definitely be looked down upon, and I felt like the story was kind of a commentary on that, how uptight people were back in the 30s, and there's one part in the book where the girl who's pregnant, what happens is she gets fired from her job when her boss notices that she's pregnant and she doesn't have a wedding ring on. So it definitely shows you just how douchebaggish people were back then, but kind of the whole story is kind of a build-up to the ending of the story, and the story has a really fucked up ending. I don't want to give away how the story ends, but it does end pretty tragically, but also the ending is pretty fucked up too, and it kind of has a supernatural element, the ending of the story, which I don't want to give away what the ending is, but essentially the whole story is like a build-up to that ending, and in some ways I can understand why people didn't like the story, because essentially, like I said, the whole story is just really a build-up to that ending, which is a pretty fucked up ending. But I like the story because even though it is just a build-up to the ending, I still felt like I still liked it because I liked the characters a lot and stuff like that. So I enjoyed The Breathing Method. I still have to read Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption and Apt Pupil from this collection, but if you do get this collection, definitely read The Body and definitely read The Breathing Method. So that's my review on The Breathing Method, and bye.